Okay.
Time to go. Let's do this. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it. That was attractive.
Sorry, Kyle is dying off camera. All right, here we go. Right. Oh, we lost him. Well, that's all she wrote, folks. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of On a Couch Talking Sports. As always, I'm Robbie. He's Kyle. Kyle, how are you tonight, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, how about you?
Good. It's summertime. Sorry, I just don't know why I had to drop a Will Smith song in there for no reason, but yeah, I'm doing well. Glad
Wait,
to be
summer? Sorry.
Okay. But glad to be back. I know it's been a couple weeks, we had some, just due to schedule and stuff like that, we took a couple weeks off, but we're back now, and we're very excited to be here, and we got a great episode planned for you guys tonight, which we're going to get to in one moment. But first, I want to send a special shout out to our sponsors, Zyman Organizing and Wes Woodson. Thank you, as always, for the support. Much appreciated, and as always, their own links will be in the description, and also thank you to them for supporting Screen Time with Doug and Kyle and the Sports Splits with Doug and myself. So a lot of good stuff happening on all fronts, and we appreciate all of you guys out there watching, and also our two sponsors for being along for the ride with us. So good stuff. But yeah, speaking of tonight's episode, so this is going to be interesting, folks, because tonight's episode, we're called, last time I checked, On a Couch Talking Sports. But tonight, we're going to do something we've never done before. And not talk about sports.
What?
Like, at least for the first half of the show. But yeah, we're going to go completely off the sports trail for part of tonight's episode, Kyle.
Whoa, yeah, totally. No, I'm not, don't mind my pretense, right? Yes, no, we're really pumped to talk about this, guys.
Yes.
So,
so if you watched our last episode a couple weeks back, you'll know that Kyle and I had kind of an impromptu brainstorming session on air, which was very interesting, but it gave us the idea for tonight's episode, and that is that we are going to discuss a hypothetical live-action version of Family Guy. You know how they've been turning like a lot of these classic Disney movies, especially it seems like into live-action movies these days? Well, we thought it'd be fun to hypothesize if they made a live-action Disney sports, what am I saying? Live-action Family Guy, that's more like it, Robbie. What actors or actresses would we like to play the main characters from the show? And so, listen, it's no secret that an episode like this is much more up Kyle's wheelhouse than it is up my wheelhouse, so I think we can be honest about ourselves. So I actually want to, right now, right in this moment, turn the keys to tonight's episode over to Kyle to kind of guide us through what is going to be a very fun and interesting journey of tonight's episode. So, buddy, the show is all yours. So, take it away.
All right. So, for this particular segment of the episode, what we were thinking was, like Robbie said, we were going to talk about which actors and actresses would play all those characters. So I was thinking like we could kind of split it up. We can start with who would play like a live action Peter, and we kind of get into that conversation, just a little brainstorming, back and forth. I'm sure Robbie and I have maybe different or maybe the same ideas for actors depending on who the character is. So I say, let's just jump into it. Let's just start with Peter himself, the big man.
Well, so, just for the record, we're just, for tonight's episode at least, we're just doing the main family, the Griffin family character, the main Griffin family characters.
Yes, that is one thing. Yeah, so we're not going to do any side characters, at least right now. Maybe that might be its own episode. We'll see how that all kind of falls into place. But yes, we are only going to focus on the core family, including Stewie and Brian the dog. So, yes. So I figured, we'll just we'll just give it a start, and we'll start with Peter. So, what were you? I actually did have because it was funny because I was actually thinking about this before the episode, and I had a couple ideas. I was kind of bouncing back and forth for Peter, especially. But Robbie, I think you had a pretty good one there. So.
Yeah. So this is actually one of the characters that I actually had an idea for. And that is, there's this guy on YouTube. I was showing it to Kyle the other day, who calls himself Real Life Peter Griffin. So he basically goes around to like Comic-Cons and just like in real life, like different events and stuff like that, dressed as and like impersonating Peter Griffin just in real life. I said to myself, if we're talking about a live action Family Guy, who better to play Peter Griffin than real life Peter Griffin? Because I think Kyle, I don't know if you mentioned this in the open there, but we're actually not going to, we decided that the one sort of limit that we were going to put on this episode is that we cannot use actors or actresses that voice the characters in the actual TV show. Yeah,
so anyone like Seth Rogen, Mila Kunis, we're not going to count them.
Seth MacFarlane, yeah.
Oh, did I say Seth? I said Seth Rogen. Oh my god. Seth MacFarlane, you guys knew what I meant. So yeah, anyone who is in pretty much direct connection with like the voice cast, or is any part of the voice cast of the show, we're not going to count. So.
Right. Yeah. So, but I would definitely go with real life Peter Griffin for the role of Peter Griffin, and
nice.
I still think he would fit it perfectly. I mean, as evidenced by the fact that he is real life Peter Griffin. But I'm curious to hear sort of I know you said some alternative thoughts, so I was curious to hear what your thoughts were on this.
So this is an interesting one. This is kind of tricky, and I kind of have to think in like certain decades, because sometimes when I think about certain actors, I think of them in like a very specific decade because maybe that was their prime. Maybe that was a lot of the movies that I had watched them in, like in the 90s, 2000s even.
Right.
So the two actually I had, I thought it'd be funny. So this might be a little redundant because they actually did this for the Flintstones. I don't know if everyone, they did make actually 2 live action Flintstones movies back in the 90s.
Okay.
I think it was one in the 90s, one in the 2000s. And I figured, well, who better to play him than John Goodman?
That is true.
I think John Goodman, he might be too good for this movie, honestly, because he's a fantastic actor. He's been in so many great things, especially more recently in the show called The Righteous Gemstones, which you guys have to watch. I think I reviewed it at one point. But it's a very tongue-in-cheek, kind of dark comedy type of show. But he might be a little on the older side now. He may have aged out of Peter Griffin. If they tried to ask him now, so that's why the other actor I was thinking of was. This guy might also be a bit older too. But I'm thinking of him kind of in, and you actually might know him, Robbie. Honestly, was Wayne Knight, who is in Space Jam. He was.
Oh, is that the guy who plays Michael Jordan's assistant in Space Jam? Yep, I got it. Isn't he he's in some other TV show, I feel like, too. Or he was at some point along the way.
He may have been in Seinfeld?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think.
I'm not sure. No, I know exactly what you were talking about, but I just can't remember if I am misidentifying my
Yeah, and he was also in the most recent live action Punisher movie that came out in just 2008. And he's been in a lot of stuff too. I don't know. they would obviously have to probably maybe change their voice or maybe like kind of do their own interpretation. But I feel like they could do Peter Griffin if they really wanted to. But who knows? I mean,
He wasn't Seinfeld. He was Newman on Seinfeld.
Okay, he was. Yep. Okay, perfect. I knew he was. You're right. Like he wasn't some like famous sitcom.
Yeah.
But
No, he was.
yeah. And so yeah, those are kind of my two picks for Peter Griffin. I don't know. Should we just move on to Meg now, or no? Actually, no. Let's do Lois.
However you want to go. It's all up to you. You drive the boat today.
Okay, so you know what? Actually, because let's do Lois. Actually, we'll do Peter and Lois, and then we'll do the rest of the family.
Sounds good.
I feel like so.
Sounds good.
So those are a couple ideas. I don't know what if you guys had any.
Yeah, anywhere along the way, if you guys want to drop a comment with who you think should play, feel free. We'd love to hear your thoughts as we go along here.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many different actors and actresses that could kind of bring their own vibe to all these roles. So I feel like for Lois, she was a really tough one. I didn't have I didn't have as many ideas for her. Did you have any kind of really strong standout ideas for her?
That's the thing, is I really Lois was very tough. Yeah. I feel obviously I feel like it would be somebody Lois, let's be honest, is a very attractive character.
True.
So I was trying to think back, very attractive, sort of middle.
Oh, wait a second. Okay.
Age.
Just give me an idea, but keep
somewhat
going.
Middle-aged actresses. I'll be honest, Kyle. I don't have a really good idea at the top of my head, so I'm gonna kind of. I know something just popped in your head. So I'm gonna kind of let you. I'm gonna kind of lean on you for this particular character.
So this is why we when we this is what I like to consider this a brainstorming session. So we can kind of give each other some different thoughts, and the way you described her, I'm like, oh wait. I was thinking actually for Lois it would be Fran Drescher from The Nanny.
That's a really good one, I think. Yeah,
because I feel like she's pretty attractive and she could probably pull it off. I mean, granted, that's another actress who I think
and she kind of talks like Lois as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. She kind of nails I feel like she would nail the Lois voice too. Maybe she might be another one, kind of like John Goodman, especially where she may have aged out of the role a little bit, but you never know. Maybe that's kind of for me, Fran Drescher in her prime, just kind of I feel like that would be.
Well, and it all depends. I think part of it is it all depends. When are you going to sort of set the live action show? Because you can kind of, are you going to set it in the quote unquote sort of TV show sort of time period, whatever you want to call it, or are you going to kind of maybe do a little bit more in the future, an all grown up type thing, because there's many different ways you can go with it. I feel in terms of setting the scene for that particular project.
Okay, wow, Robbie just opened up a whole new wheelhouse.
Well, I'm just saying, because you're talking about the fact that they may have aged out of the role, but you can't necessarily. That's not necessarily 100% true, because we don't, it depends on sort of what we're looking at in terms of time frame for the live action show.
No, see, I love that idea. Actually, I think you're right. You could, there's a lot of different approaches you could do, and I think that's a really good thing to take into consideration, because you're right, they have done that with certain shows and movies. So, even the Mario live action movie, it apparently takes place before the game, so that's why Luigi looks a little bit younger or something like that. Or, but that's I like that. No, I think actually that'd be kind of a fun twist. So I guess you're right. You could kind of really, maybe age doesn't matter a whole lot so you could have, you're right. If you're having Megan, the brother, what's the brother's name again?
So there's Stewie and there's Stewie and Chris.
Chris, that's, yeah. So those two, you could even have, like as adults. But I feel like with Stewie though, you have to just keep him as a baby because I feel like his character works mainly when he's a baby. It would be kind of strange to have him like as like a kid or like a teenager. Like,
well, I mean, they kind of done that though. Like in the TV series, they actually did like I remember one episode where like Stewie, like the baby Stewie, went in the future and met like grown up Stewie. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta see that episode. I didn't know they did that. Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right, cool. So we got our first couple picks then for. All right, so we have a lot of cool stuff to kind of take in consideration. So
speaking of, I don't mean to jump into here, but speaking of Stewie, and since it's kind of a perfect segue, can we do Stewie next? Because actually an idea popped into my head for Stewie.
Done. Let's do it.
Oh, do you want me to go? Okay. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, it's like like voicing the. Oh my god, yes!
Yeah, as
nailed it.
I know, especially if you're gonna do like sort of an older version. Yes, I know he's not a baby, so to speak, but like the British accent. I don't know. I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch's like British accent kind of mimics Stewie's in a sense. Like if you kind of listen to them back to back. So I don't know that's just. One thing I thought,
that's fantastic.
The more I'm thinking about it, probably I'm like way off because he's not a baby, so to speak.
No, that's the whole point. Like he's supposed to be this like kind of like this like well-spoken kind of like a British man. Like so, I think that is actually a really good choice for Stewie. So they could, I'm sure they'll figure it out. They could kind of like. Either put a baby or a kid or someone there, but I feel like they could still use him as like the inner monologue, even like they could.
Or you could have like a grown up Stewie,
or just
grown up Stewie, and kind of, yeah.
So there's so many different ways. You're right. Like you could approach this, like,
or maybe even like again. I know this is if you're going to go for a little bit older Stewie, like in the live action. Maybe even like a James Corden or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's right. He'd be pretty funny. I feel like he would be very like energetic, like
a good, very good kind of Stewie is. Yeah. So those are two that sort of pop into mind for Stewie.
Yeah, that's a good one. Wow, those are some pretty good picks. Stewie, I was trying to think of all these like different like kind of British actors that I had seen like shows and stuff like that, and it's kind of tricky. Like I was thinking if he was around, I would have done. But I mean, he's like he like had long since passed away. But the guy who played what was his name? He was one of the generals in Star Wars. It was I think it was Peter something. I can't think of the name.
Not Peter Dinklage. No, Peter Dinklage is still alive. Yeah.
Actually, that would be a great choice. You just threw another good. Yeah. I think Peter Dinklage would actually. He has the perfect like.
Doesn't that really be? But he's also might be the size. If you're good.
Well, no. Actually, I'll be honest. I wasn't even thinking about his size. I was thinking more about the voice because he has kind of. Like
I know. I took it there with the size, and now I feel so bad about doing so. But it kind of like.
I didn't even think about that. Oh wow! Yeah. Well.
So it would work. I
mean, I guess so, maybe. Whatever way they do it, like even if they just want to like have him as a voice or something like that, maybe do like I feel like that could work really well too. That's the thing. There's so many different ways you could do this. You could have like him do the voice, and then maybe like later on, like as adult Stewie, they could have like Benedict Cumberbatch or something like that, or
never know.
Or James Corden, like you said. Like I think that'd be kind of cool. So no, I think actually those are all like really really valid. I just can't think of what the guy's name is though. In Star Wars in the 70s, he was that you may file when ready. Like he had this like kind of almost like evil kind of like villain voice that I thought he nailed pretty well. So I think it was like Pete. No, not Peter Mayhew. That's the guy who played Chewie. Anyways, I'll have to. Yeah, that one just kind of popped in my head, so I'll have to maybe go back on that one. But I think there's some really good choices for Stewie.
Yeah.
So I actually had one for Meg myself.
All right. Then let's go with that next.
I think just for fun, I think it would be funny to have like someone like Ariana Grande, but like with the Meg look, who has like the hair and the glasses.
Yes.
And like the cap, I just think that would be hysterical if they like had someone like her as Meg or something like that.
I think that the funny thing is, now that you mentioned, that sounds like sort of that sounds like a very perfect one. I agree.
I mean, you could also do like there's so many different like choices. Like, I would even like I think also like this would also be really really random. Like, but I just love her. I think she has a lot of like versatility. This actress, but Samara Weaving, who she did a lot of more like kind of cult classic movies. She did this movie called Ready or Not. She was actually in Bill and Ted's the newest Bill and Ted with Keanu Reeves, and she actually played she played I think it was Keanu Reeves or was it Alex Winter's daughter. Like she played one of their daughters. So and I think she's like in her 30s. So I think I don't know. I think it'd be funny just to have her as like 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 an adult Meg or something like that. But yeah, no. Did you have any ideas yourself or?
I really don't for Meg. To be honest with you, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do a little in-show research here because I'm trying to like remember a character that I thought of potentially for Chris Griffin.
Oh, okay.
So,
gotcha.
Apologies for my momentary phone distraction, but I'm trying to Google a name here really quickly. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I think I really like your Ariana Grande pick for Meg. There's really nothing, I hate to say, there's really nothing popping into my mind for Meg, so I think that could kind of be a mutual pick, so to speak, a combo pick right there.
I don't know, like, she always kind of gave me that, like, sort of, like, a little bit of a Mila Kunis vibe at times, too, like, just maybe, I don't know, maybe it's, like, the voice, or, even though I know it's, like, one's a singer, the other one's an actress, like, I don't know, I just don't know what made me think of that, but I just was like, alright, maybe we'll just try that. But yeah, so now we have
Chris and we have Brian.
Chris and Brian. I actually have one for Brian that I have like this is the for me like this is the definite for Brian personally.
Okay, I mean, which way do you want to go?
Your call. So you said you had one potentially.
I had one potentially for Chris.
All right, let's start with Chris.
Maybe do all the humans and then do the.
All right, we'll save the dog for you.
Wrap it up. Yeah.
Good call.
So again, this sort of a couple of these picks have kind of like popped into my head as we've been going along here. Mm-hmm. So my pick for Chris is, and this may be a bit of an obscure reference, but there was a sort of classic Disney movie, Heavyweights.
Oh my god, I remember that movie.
The guy that plays Jerry, who I just looked up his name, I believe his name is Aaron Schwartz. The guy who plays Jerry, who's kind of like the main boy character in Heavyweights. I'm just trying to make sure.
Oh.
Yeah, Aaron Schwartz. I think like I don't know, just like his build in that movie, but also even just sort of the way I just think would be. And the sort of the voice cadence stuff like that, I think would be a good fit for Chris. I
have the picture in my head. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie in like so long.
Yeah, so that's just sort of the thought that popped into my head. I know it's like I said, it's a bit obscure, but I think it could end up being a good fit for Chris. I don't know if you had any ideas for Chris yourself.
So. I did have one that popped in my head. This is a different version, though, and this would be, like, technically, like, an older Chris. Like, I think this would be a good for, like, an adult Chris. But I think the actor Wyatt Russell, who is actually Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's son.
Oh,
and
yes.
He, yeah, I'm sure you've probably seen him in stuff. He was actually in this hockey movie called Goon. This technically was a second Goon movie with Sean William Scott. And he played this kind of like his sort of rival goon skater, and basically he has the kind of like that
Oh,
blonde
he did.
hair.
You know, he does kind of that Chris look going for him. Yeah.
Right, like I feel like he'd be perfect
Yeah.
for like adult Chris essentially,
Yeah.
and he kind of like he's a little more buff, so I think that'd be kind of a funny thing. He ends up being like a really buff dude or something like that. And he kind of has that. I don't know. I feel like he'd be kind of a fun choice for that because he's a very funny actor. He's really good. So I've liked him in all the roles he was in. He also played like evil Captain America in the Winter Soldier show that came out on Disney Plus a few years ago, and he's been in a lot of stuff. He's done Black Mirror episodes, so he's very versatile. I think he could pull it off. So
Yeah, I mean, both ideas sound great to me. I don't think you could go wrong either way, in a sense. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that now just leaves us with Brian the dog.
Yes.
And I personally had. I mean, did you have any ideas for Brian or?
I really did. 'Cause I'm not sure which way I'm not sure which way I would go with it. Like, it's kind of tough because obviously Brian is like a talking, like basically like human dog in the show. Like, he doesn't even like walk on four legs. He like walks on like two legs like a normal human. So it's like kind of like how do you approach that from a live action point of view? So I'm not quite sure which way I would go with it. I didn't really have any good ideas, but I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on that.
So, because for Brian, like, you would have to probably do like a CGI dog, kind of like what they did with like the Scooby Doo live action movie. I feel like if they wanted,
like the Scooby Doo, like kind of like the different movies, yeah. Because you're right, they have kind of like CGI'd it. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like the ones like they made back in like the early 2000s. Like, I think that would, if they wanted to kind of like do the walking dog kind of thing. I don't know. Some movies like to try to go more realistic. I know, like if they wanted to do like an actual dog, they could do the Babe technique and have like a real dog on set, but then they could have like someone voice the dog, or they could do like a CGI dog and have them walk on two legs, but then have someone voice that character as well. So I was just thinking more from like a voice standpoint. I think the perfect voice for Brian would be John Hamm from Mad Men.
I think you had mentioned this to me before, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because when I think of John Hamm's like voice, just sort of in my head right now, like it definitely again sort of gives off that Brian vibe. So I could definitely see that.
Because like I always thought like Brian had like kind of like a deeper voice, so you need someone with like a kind of a semi deeper voice, like a deep, just like very confident, kind of like a John Hamm type.
What about what just a spitball?
Oh yeah.
What about, because I know we mentioned him earlier, even accidentally. What about like a Seth Rogen? Like.
Oh.
Like from a voiceover point of view, because I feel like he kind of has a bit of a Brian voice and cadence as well.
He does have a deeper voice, and honestly, yeah, you know what? He could actually bring like a really kind of funny side to like a more funny side, more kind of like a little more energetic even, I'd say. Then that actually would be a good choice too. Like especially depending on like what kind of direction they want to take the character, because that's the nice thing about live action is, you know, some live action movies they stick really close to like their source material, whereas other live action movies they kind of like take some liberties and they kind of try some different like they try to change up the
techniques, like stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, even like character direction a little bit. They change up the vibe of the character, which is honestly I'm okay as long as the movie's good. That's all I care about. Like whatever direction they take with the movie, as long as it's good. So, but yeah, no, I think that's another really good idea, and I think that was a pretty good brainstorming session.
That was great. Yeah, that was
awesome.
That was a ton of fun. Like, and I like the fact that I kind of was able to like bring up some ideas like as we were going along here, which I didn't necessarily expect, but like it sort of goes to show you when the wheels start turning, like
it's just
you could actually you can actually figure some stuff out. So I think we definitely came up with some good ideas.
Nailed
it. And you know now, and I definitely think we should do a part 2 of this to sort of look at some of the the key side characters. Like, I think it'd be a lot of fun to look at like Quagmire.
Oh my god,
Cleveland and Joe.
I'm excited for Quagmire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh god, Quagmire would be quite something.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, I think we'll have some fun with that in a future episode. But
definitely.
No, that was great. I'm glad we decided to take a step back from our usual sports format and dive into that a little bit. So definitely worth it. So thank you, Kyle, for taking us down that road. Well done. So we are going to move on to the sort of second half of our episode with my final thoughts and the Sue's reviews. For my final thought, I want to do a little teaser for our next episode coming down the road, because Kyle and I this weekend are going to be taking a day pilgrimage down to Cape Cod. Obviously, if you've watched our show before, you know that we each year try to make at least a day trip down to the Cape, and it's always enjoyable, and we're going to be continuing that this coming weekend, just for a day trip this time around, but still very much looking forward to it. And there are going to be some sports-related activities involved in this day trip. I'm not going to tell you what yet, partially because we're not 100% sure what they're going to be at this moment. But for our next episode, we are going to be sort of doing a little review of our Cape Day trip. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we can't wait to talk with you guys about it the next time around. So
good stuff.
That's sort of my final thoughts / next episode teaser right there. So now let me toss it back over, I should say, to Kyle for another rousing edition of the Sue's Reviews. Kyle, take it away.
So I wanted to talk about this series that actually just ended. And I think it's a series that was unfortunately just kind of got the bad end of the stick there. And no one really seemed to like it. It just got canceled, actually, after its very first season. And that series is none other than Gotham Knights. It's a CW show that started up, I want to say, like sometime, I think it was like earlier this year, like kind of January, February, or maybe even March, actually, it started. But, you know, after giving that show a good watch, it's 13 episodes. It really doesn't take that long to get through. And it's a show about basically, you know, Batman gets killed, and which leaves his adoptive son to kind of take the reins. And but the only problem is the son gets falsely accused of murder. He gets accused of his own stepfather's murder. So basically now he's on the run from the cops, and he gets kind of entangled with these villains that he bumps into, and they end up actually kind of having to stick together, and they become the series' main characters. It's kind of an ensemble show, and it's very, very, very loosely based on kind of like the comic / video game storyline of the same name. Where the Bat family, in that storyline, it was the Bat children, like Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing. They kind of had to take control. Well, they had to end up being the ones to save Gotham after Batman's demise. So this is a very similar vibe, except I like the villain twist in this. I like that the main character teams up with villains. I think that's a really cool setup. But yeah, when this show first started, when I saw the trailers, I didn't like it. I didn't think I was going to like it, is what I should say. It looked really bad to me. Like, I just thought the marketing was awful, and I was just really, like, looking at the show, I'm like, oh my god, this looks terrible. This looks like like Batman meets Dawson's Creek. Like, I don't want to watch that. And you know, while it does have some of those elements there, it actually turned out to be a very surprisingly good show. I was actually invested with the characters. I did not expect that to happen. The ensemble I thought is really stellar, and I feel bad that it got canceled, after only the first season, and because I thought they really could have. I really was excited to see where they were going to take that story next, but it did leave on a little bit of a cliffhanger. That's kind of the only downer of this season. The rest of the season I thought was really solid when it came to like the action, kind of like the more mystery angle. It's they're trying to like the hero, well the main characters I should say are trying to kind of solve like why the city is corrupted, why Gotham is just the way it is, and who this mysterious group called the Court of Owls is. And I thought they did all that really, really well. And on top of all that, I think they have the best live-action version of one of the classic Batman villains, Two-Face. And you actually get to see how he becomes... how he goes from Harvey Dent to Two-Face, because it's not a spoiler that he's going to turn into Two-Face at some point. Harvey Dent always turns into Two-Face in every Batman iteration there is. But the way they did it this time was really good, and the actor playing him, and he was an actor from actually Supernatural, and he was just phenomenal. I really just loved his portrayal. I thought I thought he just really nailed the role. I think he actually might be the best live-action Two-Face I've ever seen. So I feel bad. I would say it's a good... You should definitely give the show a chance. Definitely check out Gotham Knights. I'm sure it'll come out on HBO Max or Max. It's called now, Max. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's a very underrated show. I think even if you're not a fan of the whole, Batman's dead or gone, but the kids have the young spunky teenagers have to kind of go into Gotham and save the day. Even if you're not a fan of that setup, I still say give the show a chance, because I was getting really tired of that setup. They had a lot of shows like that, like Birds of Prey and Batwoman, where they just kept doing that. No Batman. Teen Titans even did that. Where it's like, okay, Batman, yep. So, but this show I thought had probably the freshest approach out of all of them. So, definitely check it out. Gotham Knights, CW.
Cool. Well, thank you, Kyle, as always, for that lovely review. Definitely very in-depth, which we always appreciate. So thank you for that. So yeah, that is going to wind down this edition of On a Couch Talking Sports, or in this case, On a Couch Talking Family Guy. But anyway, it's been great, as always, folks, and please feel free to drop us a comment, drop us a like, subscribe, ring the bell, you know the deal. We're here on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're all over the place, so definitely, we appreciate the support and hope that you continue supporting, and also hope you continue supporting our other two shows as well, Screen Time with Doug and Kyle, Sports Blitz with Doug and I. Definitely, just keep the love and support going, and also show our sponsors some love. Zion Organizing and Wes Woodson, always appreciative of them. We all know they've got our backs, not just for the show, but all our 3 YouTube shows as well. So anyway, that is going to do it for this edition of On a Couch Talking Sports. Until next time, that's Kyle. I'm Robbie, and we'll see you next time for On a Couch Talking Sports. Bye, everybody.